Fresh, funny, and fast, The Flash is a good time at the movies. Director Andy Muschietti's clear love of the character anchors the many refreshingly unique action scenes and twisty time travel plot, never losing sight of Barry Allen's powerful emotional journey. Though the story doesn't necessarily justify its excessive fan service and the third act is a bit unwieldy, that doesn't stop The Flash from being an earnest and entertaining superhero film, and one of the better efforts from DC in recent memory. What's up, everybody? My name is Joshua Yehl, and this is my review of The Flash.
Hi.
I love you!
Thank you.
In a loose adaptation of the Flashpoint comic event that feels like a more focused version of the source material, Barry rushes to use his newfound time travel ability to undo the most traumatic event of his life, the murder of his mother when he was a child. Using Back to the Future time travel rules,
somewhere in the past, the timeline skewed into this tangent, creating an alternate 1985.
The Flash becomes a tale of two Barry Allens, two Batmans, and two versions of DC movie continuities colliding. What follows is a sincere and surprisingly humorous morality play where Barry must reconcile what his selfish and grief-stricken actions have wrought. It's especially effective in telling a story that includes the Flash's full origin without actually being a typical origin story movie. It's impressive that it still manages to get all of that across because for a film called The Flash, there sure is a lot of Batman in it.
2 against 2 are better odds.
Even though it indulges in unnecessarily long Batman action sequences and numerous overt references to the Tim Burton Batman films, they never overshadow Barry's story. The two Batman's contrasting views are used to excellent effect to accent Barry's plight. As men orphaned by violence as children, they have a lot in common, and thus provide Barry with juicy philosophical food for thought. For his part, Ben Affleck seems more at home as Batman and Bruce Wayne than ever, with a performance that's all business and sadness with a perfectly measured dash of dry humor. Michael Keaton, on the other hand, portrays an aged Bruce with an understated performance. Too understated at some points.
Let's get nuts.
However, Keaton's action scenes are the exact opposite as we watch his Batman come alive and kick ass like never before thanks to modern special effects. On one hand, it is cool, like really cool to see him fling batarangs and glide around like a bat out of hell, but it's also overly cartoonish when we all know that Keaton is in his 70s.
I'm Batman.
It's kind of like when the elderly Palpatine did that CGI flip in Revenge of the Sith. As for the other big superhero in this film, unfortunately, Supergirl feels more like a plot device than a fully fleshed out character, and it's sad to watch as her part in the story veers into cringy cliche territory.
My name is Kara. I will help you.
That said, actor Sasha Calle shines as much as she can given the thin nature of the role, and still manages to make an impression with her disillusioned Kara Zor-El, who holds an understandable grudge against humanity. All those characters play major roles, but this is the first time we've seen Barry in a movie centered around him, and Muschietti takes care to showcase his signature powers in true blockbuster fashion. Whereas Zack Snyder mostly rendered super speed in slow motion, Muschietti makes you feel the G's from the first time Flash strikes his admittedly dorky sprinting pose and takes off. At times, there is an uncomfortable yet silly intimacy in how the Flash's powers are depicted. We quickly see that having that kind of speed isn't as easy as it looks, and learning how Barry navigates things like friction heat and what happens to your clothes when you phase through solid matter gives you an appreciation for just how clever and resourceful he is. So as you would expect, the movie has a really cool slow motion speedster sequence, which there have been a lot of in other movies. This one does not top the king of them all, which I still say is the Quicksilver scene from Days of Future Past, but it certainly comes close with how inventive and honestly ridiculous it is. And it's almost like a horror scene, and you can feel Muschietti like really playing up the horror of the scene, yet he still makes it very funny and silly by the time it's all wrapped up. But it is a really cool sequence that really shows what the Flash can do and how smart Barry Allen has to be to make his powers work.
I could fix things. I could save your parents.
Now, while a majority of the visual effects are superb, one in particular is not. Time travel is portrayed using a concept unlike anything we've seen before, and credit where it's due for that originality, but when this chrono bowl, yes, which is what they actually call it in the movie, when this chrono bowl depicts people, they look like eerie wax dolls with plastic hair, as if the CGI render was shut off halfway through. Now, given that a handful of important scenes take place there, and they ask for a lot of emotional investment from us, the audience, the distracting look ends up robbing certain big moments of their intended impact. It didn't bowl me over. It's obvious going in that The Flash deals with time travel, but nothing can quite prepare you for the blast from the past that is returning to the era of Zack Snyder's Man of Steel from 2013. It feels strange revisiting these events 10 years later, yet that ends up working to The Flash's advantage as Barry begins to notice how things have changed in this timeline. In big ways and small, this story feels like a parting love letter to the Snyderverse, as it plays with the many toys the DCEU has introduced over the years and adds a new layer to that foundational film, and in doing so expands on Barry's superhero journey in a profound way. Only James Gunn and Peter Safran know what's in store for the future of the DC universe, but if this is truly the last in-universe chapter of the Snyderverse as we know it, then it's a fitting swan song because it brings things full circle. And yes, Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom is technically part of the Snyderverse, but it's coming after what Gunn described as a reset of the DC universe in The Flash. So as far as the canon is concerned, it's happening after the Snyderverse proper has come to an end, which is confusing, I know, but we're just gonna roll with it.
Wait, he's Batman?
So, the film culminates in one of the most ambitious and unwieldy third acts we've seen in a superhero movie in quite some time. The amount of chaos, both in action and storytelling, that unfolds threatens to overwhelm you and confuse you, and it kinda does at times, but ultimately, the movie succeeds because it manages to keep Barry's arc at the heart of it all. That's owed to the fact that Barry Allen is the most impressive part of The Flash, and why it all works so well. By having Barry meet his younger self, a version of him who was never traumatized the way he was, it helps us better understand what makes him tick and where his odd personality comes from.
This is mad trippy. Dude, this is catastrophic.
In this movie, Barry doesn't start off as the most likable character, but by the end, it's hard not to root for him. We see the ways in which grief affected his life, like how he doesn't have any friends and he overperforms at his job to make sure no one has to suffer like he has. And we see how that's made him a better hero. Actor Ezra Miller excels in this double role, offering two dramatically different looks at the same character. One of the best scenes of the film is just Barry having a passionate argument with his younger self.
My face. You stole my face.
Machete has this delightful offbeat sense of humor, and Miller proves they have the comedic chops to deliver it, taking all too familiar superhero beats and upending them into laugh-out-loud moments or creative action scenes. Yet the superhero theatrics are all in service of an intimate story about the pain of grief and the strength it takes to find acceptance. And in those moments of vulnerability, Miller shines just as bright.
Because this is the world where my mom lives. I'm not gonna lose her again.
Now, I have to address the elephant in the room. Before you decide whether to watch The Flash, you should be aware that Ezra Miller has had a tumultuous and deeply concerning past few years. They've been charged with several serious crimes, and they're currently serving probation as a result of one of them. Miller has apologized for their behavior and says they're seeking help for complex mental health issues. And you can read all about this in more detail on IGN. So, as a film critic, I've told you everything I honestly think about the film and Ezra's performance, but beyond that, all I can do is make you aware of what's going on in the real world, and it's up to you to decide what to do with that information according to your own personal values.
Do you know what this symbol stands for?
Means hope, right?
So, to wrap this up, The Flash is an ambitious superhero movie that largely pulls off its tale of two worlds, two Flashes, and two Batmans. The superhero fan service is strong with this one, perhaps too strong at times.
Is this what I think it is?
But it never fully overshadows Barry Allen's genuinely tragic and heartfelt story of grief. Though the visual effects aren't always the best and the third act is a bit overwhelming, strong performances and a refreshing earnestness keep The Flash on track and running circles around many of the recent DC Universe movies. If this truly is the last stop on the Snyderverse Express, then it is a respectable way to go out, which is why I'm giving The Flash a score of 7 out of 10.
Are you ready?
Ready. Let's go.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to stick around and check out what we thought of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Fast X. And for more movie reviews, keep coming back to IGN.
Barry, what are you doing? Our kids are gonna wanna see this.